I thought my life was perfect until I found out my husband and my best friend were starring in a love story I never auditioned for. My name is Emma, I'm 28, and for 7 years I believed I'd hit the jackpot in love. Mark, my husband, was my rock. We had our little house, a playful dog, and a marriage that looked picture perfect. But perfect can shatter fast, and mine did last summer. Mark and I had always been that couple people envied. Weekend hikes, Sunday pancakes, matching Christmas pajamas, yeah, the works. He'd walk in the door with that goofy smile, and I'd swear life was good. We weren't rich, but happiness felt like our currency. Lisa, my best friend, was always there too. Part of our chosen family, practically an aunt to the dog. Life felt solid, safe, ordinary in the best way. Lisa and I went way back. College roommates who became inseparable. We survived breakups, bad haircuts, and too many late night pizzas. She was the kind of friend you'd trust with your diary or your house keys. She cheered me on through my engagement, cried at my wedding, and swore she'd always have my back. If someone had told me she'd stab me in it, I would have laughed. Hard. But cracks have a way of showing before walls collapse. Mark's job suddenly became demanding. Late nights, urgent deadlines, and endless meetings. His phone, once casually tossed on the table, became a permanent fixture in his pocket. I brushed it off, told myself he was just stressed. But denial doesn't erase unease, it only buries it until it claws its way out. Lisa started acting strange too. She'd cancel our coffee dates, avoid eye contact, fumble excuses like she was reading from a bad script. Sorry, Emma, I'm just swamped. She'd smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. I noticed she stopped tagging me in memes we used to laugh at. It was subtle, but friendship has rhythms, and ours was out of tune. I tried to shake it off. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe marriage had just made me sensitive, but my gut kept whispering, and guts don't whisper for no reason. The way Mark stiffened when I asked about his day, the nervous laugh Lisa gave when his name slipped into conversation, it wasn't proof, but it was smoke. And where there's smoke, there's usually a dumpster fire. Nights became harder. Mark would come home smelling faintly of cologne I didn't recognize, one I never bought him. He'd say he was exhausted, fall into bed, and snore like the world was fine. Meanwhile, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if my imagination was my worst enemy, or if my worst enemy was closer than I thought. Sleep stopped feeling safe. One night, sleep wouldn't come at all. I padded into the living room, dog trailing behind, and saw Mark slumped on the couch, phone clutched like treasure. But right there, glowing innocently, was his iPad. Unlocked. The screen begged me to look. My heart pounded like a drum. I told myself not to. Curiosity was Pandora's box, but fear pushed harder. I picked it up with trembling hands. Messages lit the screen like little bombs. At first, it was harmless, banter, jokes, quick updates. My breath caught as I scrolled further. Flirty emojis, late-night hearts. And then I saw the name at the top of the thread. Lisa, my Lisa. The world tilted. I blinked, hoping I was wrong, that maybe it was another Lisa. But the words left no room for doubt. One message carved itself into my brain. Last night was amazing. Emma can't know. My hands shook so hard I nearly dropped the iPad. The room blurred with tears, my stomach flipped, and the dog whimpered at my feet. I scrolled on, though every word felt like glass under my skin. Hotels, her place, even our car. Our car. I could almost hear the universe laughing at me. I couldn't stop reading. The betrayal sprawled across months of timestamps, a history of stolen moments I never signed up for. They joked about me, planned around me, lived a double life while I cooked dinners and folded laundry. Every new message was another dagger. By the time I stopped, I was numb. Betrayal has a way of freezing you, locking you in shock. Mark shifted on the couch, and I snapped the iPad shut, clutching it like evidence in a crime scene. Which, honestly, it was. My crime was trusting too much. His crime was burning that trust for cheap thrills. I sat there in the dark, iPad pressed to my chest, shaking like I'd swallowed lightning. My brain screamed to scream, but no sound came out. Minutes crawled by. I stared at him, sleeping like a man with no conscience. My heart raced, my breath shallow, my pulse in my ears. I thought of Lisa's face, her fake smiles, her canceled plans. I thought of our wedding day, of vows that meant nothing to him. I thought of how blind I'd been. Every memory felt rewritten, every laugh now a lie. The dog shifted closer, nudging my leg as if to say, I'm here. That tiny comfort kept me from falling apart. I wiped my tears, steadied my breath, and told myself this: I'm not crazy. I'm not imagining things. I have proof, right here, in my hands. And tonight the truth walks free. No more excuses, no more pretending. Mark stirred, stretching like it was just another night. His eyes blinked open, warm and lazy, like a man who thought he was still safe. He smiled faintly, unaware his world was seconds from collapsing. And in that moment, clutching the iPad like a loaded weapon, I realized something. This was it, the line between before and after. I was about to cross it and nothing would ever be the same. Mark rubbed his eyes and sat up, stretching like a man who thought the world was fine. I gripped the iPad tighter, my pulse hammering. My voice cracked as I asked, "Want to explain why my best friend is texting you about last night?" His face went pale. He blinked at me, searching for words that weren't there. For a long second, silence stretched between us like barbed wire. Finally, he stammered, "Emma, it's not what it looks like." That cliche, that pathetic excuse. My laugh came out sharp, bitter. "Not what it looks like? Do the hotel receipts come with a complimentary blindfold, Mark?" He reached for me, but I pulled back. My hands trembled, but my voice hardened. I shoved the iPad toward him. "Read it. Read your lies back to yourself." His face flushed deep red. He ran a hand through his hair, muttering, Okay, it just happened." My chest burned. Just happened? For 6 months? Mark, accidents are spilled milk. This was a full-time hobby. He opened his mouth, closed it again. Words failed him, but guilt didn't. It sat heavy on his shoulders, finally visible for me to see. My heart broke in real time. Before I could even breathe, my phone lit up. "Lisa, the gall," I answered, and her sobs poured through the line. "Emma, I'm so sorry, it was a mistake. We were drunk, and it spiraled." I cut her off. "A mistake? For half a year? That's not a mistake, Lisa. That's a schedule." My voice shook, but my fury steadied it. She begged, pleaded, swore she loved me like a sister. I hung up. Sisters don't sleep with each other's husbands. My brother was the first person I told. He was furious, his voice thundering through the phone. "Emma, give me their addresses, I'll handle it." I stopped him, knowing fists wouldn't fix this. My parents, devastated, rallied around me. "You deserve better," my mom whispered, her hand warm on mine. Their anger burned on my behalf, but it was their love that stopped me from crumbling completely. That night, I opened Reddit. My hands hovered over the keyboard, then flew. I poured it all into Biker R, surviving infidelity. Every suspicion, every text, every betrayal. The post exploded. 9,000 upvotes, hundreds of comments. Strangers shouted what I needed to hear. "They both betrayed you. Cut them off. You're stronger than you think. You deserve better." Oddly, strangers cared more about me than my own husband had. Revenge is a strange balm. I wasn't satisfied just knowing I needed them exposed. In a moment of raw clarity, I took screenshots of the texts and dropped them into our mutual friends group chat. Gasps flew back like sparks. Shocked emojis, furious messages, disbelief. Lisa's sister called her out in the thread, her words sharp as knives. "I knew you were jealous, but this? Disgusting." My phone buzzed nonstop. My secret no longer mine alone. Lisa texted me separately, begging me to stop. "You're ruining my life." I typed back, "Funny, that's exactly what you did to mine." And I blocked her. Mark wasn't spared either. He showed up the next day with flowers, eyes swollen from crying. He stood on my porch, voice breaking. "Emma, I'll change, please. We can fix this." I stared at him, numb. Flowers for betrayal? That's like bringing a Band-Aid to a house fire. I told him flatly, "You didn't just cheat, Mark. You made a fool out of me. You chose her over and over. I'm done." He sank to his knees, begging, but the words bounced off me like raindrops on stone. I felt nothing. The man I loved was already gone. All that stood before me was a liar in a suit of regret. I closed the door, his voice muffled behind it, and exhaled for the first time in days. But curiosity is stubborn. That night, still shaking, I went digging again. His email, passwords he never bothered to change. And there it was. Hotel receipts, stretching back months. Multiple cities, different dates. It wasn't a fling. It was a whole second life. Seeing the charges in black and white cemented it. My heartbreak wasn't paranoia, it was math. Cold, undeniable math. I printed them. Petty? Maybe. But power tastes different once it's in your hands. I slid copies under his cousin's door, where he'd been staying. I sent a set to Lisa's workplace inbox, just in case she thought denial was an option. They wanted secrecy. I gave them spotlight. It was messy, but so was my pain. And for the first time, I wasn't covering for anyone. I was done protecting the people who destroyed me. Friends chose sides quickly. Some reached out, shocked and apologetic. Others stayed silent, their cowardice speaking louder than words. But one by one, the truth spread, and their masks fell. Lisa's reputation crashed harder than my heart did. She lost friends, and eventually, she lost her job too. Mark drifted, couch surfing, calling me in desperation. I ignored him. The man who once promised forever couldn't even keep 6 months sacred. At night, the silence was loud. Therapy became my anchor. My therapist reminded me, Emma, their betrayal says nothing about your worth. Still, I wrestled with guilt, shame, rage. Healing wasn't linear. It was jagged. Some mornings, I woke up feeling free. Others, the weight crushed me again. But every day, I stepped further from them, closer to myself. The cruelest part wasn't just losing them. It was losing the illusions. The marriage I thought I had never really existed. The friendship I trusted was counterfeit. Yet, buried in the rubble, I found something else. Strength. The kind you don't know you have until you're forced to rise. And even in the darkest moments, a spark inside whispered, "You will rise. You already are." Still, closure felt slippery. And when I thought I'd seen it all, the hotel receipts in my hands screamed louder. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a lifestyle. And that realization left me with one last decision. Do I burn the bridge quietly, or do I make sure the flames are seen from miles away? I knew my answer, and with shaking hands, I lit the match. The receipts spread across my table like playing cards in a cruel game, each one proof that my marriage had been nothing but smoke and mirrors. I stared at them until my eyes blurred. Betrayal was one thing. Cold, financial evidence of it was another. I wasn't crazy, I wasn't paranoid, I was right. That bitter validation hardened into resolve. It was time to stop bleeding and start fighting back. I gathered the papers, slid them into neat envelopes, and mailed copies to the only people who mattered in their lives. His cousin, her boss, mutual friends who thought we were a golden couple. If they wanted secrecy, they should have picked a different hobby. The silence that followed was deafening. One by one, I saw their world crumble under the weight of truth they thought I'd never share. Lisa's boss didn't take kindly to the drama. A scandal was bad for business, and her job evaporated overnight. The woman who once bragged about promotions was suddenly unemployed. Her reputation, once polished, now dragged through mud she poured herself. Friends who once adored her vanished. Even her own sister stopped answering her calls. I didn't need to lift a finger. The fallout did the work. Mark fared no better. He bounced between relatives, couch to couch, his flowers and apologies turning pathetic. Word spread quickly. Friends saw him for who he was, not just a cheater, but a coward who betrayed the woman who built a life with him. His charm had limits, and once exposed, he had nothing left. I blocked his number, but sometimes I'd glance at my call log. Missed call, missed call, missed call. Desperation has a ringtone. Meanwhile, I sold the house. The cozy little dream we built together no longer felt like home. It felt like a tombstone for a life that never existed. With the money, I moved to a new city, a new apartment with sunlit windows and no shadows. My dog adjusted quickly, curling up beside me as if to say, "We're okay." And for the first time in months, I believed it. Therapy became more than a lifeline. It became a blueprint. I learned that their betrayal wasn't a reflection of my worth. It was their weakness, their emptiness. My therapist reminded me, Emma, they didn't love better. They loved worse, and you survived it. Some days I'd repeat that to myself like a prayer. Other days the scars stung. But healing isn't about erasing pain. It's about carrying it without letting it break you. Reddit kept me company through the storm. Strangers updated me with encouragement, celebrated my small victories, even cheered when Lisa's downfall hit the grapevine. Sweet karma. One comment read, "She torched herself." Another wrote, "Mark's flowers must have wilted faster than his excuses." Their wit made me laugh when I thought I'd forgotten how. Odd, how thousands of strangers felt closer than the two people I trusted most. I won't lie, revenge was satisfying. Watching their lives unravel felt like justice. But revenge wasn't the ending. I wanted more. I wanted rebirth. So I poured myself into work, into projects I'd been too distracted to chase. When the promotion came, it felt like proof. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. The woman they tried to break had climbed higher than either of them could ever reach. Sometimes I'd imagine what Lisa thought as she scrolled through job listings. Did she regret it? Did she still call it a mistake? Because a mistake is spilling wine on the carpet, not building a 6-month secret affair. And Mark? Did he lie awake on his cousin's couch, replaying the way I closed the door on him? Did he finally realize flowers don't fix ashes? I didn't care enough to ask. Their regret wasn't my responsibility. The hardest part was unlearning the lies I told myself, that I wasn't enough. That if I'd been prettier, smarter, more exciting, they wouldn't have strayed. Therapy reminded me, people cheat because of who they are, not because of who they're with. They were empty, and they used me to fill the void until they found each other. And even then, they were still empty. That was never my fault. One evening, I sat on my balcony in my new city, the sun dipping low, dog curled at my feet. I sipped wine and realized I hadn't thought of them all day. Not once. That was freedom. The absence of their ghostly presence in my head. I whispered to myself, "You're free, Emma." And for the first time, I believed it wasn't just words, it was truth. Friends back home sometimes sent me updates. Lisa had moved in with her parents. Mark was still drifting. Each update was like watching a rerun of a show I'd stopped caring about. I'd nod, shrug, and move on. My life wasn't about them anymore. It was about me. And every step forward was another reminder. I didn't need their apology to heal. I'd already healed without it. Sometimes I wonder what I'd say if I ran into them on the street. Maybe nothing. Maybe I'd smile, walk by, and let silence be my revenge. Or maybe I'd laugh and say, "Thanks, losing you was the best thing that ever happened to me." Because it was. They thought they broke me, but they forged me instead, stronger, sharper, untouchable. I used to think closure would come when they apologized, but closure came the day I stopped caring if they ever did. It came the day I chose myself. It came when I realized the best revenge isn't making them hurt. It's proving they couldn't stop me from living, laughing, rising. They wanted to dim my light. Instead, I burned brighter. Now, when I look back, I don't see a perfect marriage shattered. I see a lesson learned the hard way, but learned nonetheless. I see a friendship that was never real. And I see a woman who walked through fire and came out stronger. The scars are there, sure, but they're proof I survived. Proof I refused to let betrayal define me. So, if Lisa ever wonders what I think of her now, the answer is simple. I don't. She doesn't live rent-free in my mind anymore, and if Mark still dreams of what we had, that's his burden, not mine. My story didn't end with their betrayal, it began with my survival, and that survival has turned into something beautiful, something untouchable. Because here's the truth they never understood. They burned my trust, but I built a fire pit out of the ashes and kept warm without them. I found peace, I found strength, and most importantly, I found myself. And if that's not the sweetest revenge, I don't know what is.